Hey, welcome back to the Getting to This Place podcast with Reeya Banerjee and Luke Folger. We're talking about Reeya's record, This Place. We're going song by song, episode by episode, breaking down the songs on this record and talking about how they came to be and literally how we got to this place. So the next one here, episode 8, Sink In.
Give me that steadfast point in a total tornado. Together we fill this void. Where does every day go? Sink in to the couch with me. Don't you wanna watch reruns? We could be the only ones.
I want to start right away, Reeya. There's a couple of lines, lyric lines in this song that interest me. And I'll let you just explain it because it's kind of the story of the song. So give me that steadfast point in a total tornado. Together we fill this void. Where does every day go? Sink into the couch with me. Don't you want to watch reruns? We could be the only ones. That sounds somewhat domestic bliss and somewhat something else.
Yeah. So this was from a very specific time in my life, and it's funny when I think about, if this was back in the day and people put out little 45s, singles, Runner would be the A side and this would be the B side because this was happening at the same time. So this was like my life after I came home from the whiz bang boom of New York, and now I'm back home, and I was living in Poughkeepsie. And I had a roommate who's still, we're really good friends. He's my best friend from college. We lived together for almost 10 years. And we got into a weird, not weird, it wasn't bad, but it was sort of like it was definitely like a platonic codependency, because we were both just sort of figuring out the adulting thing. And I had this, monster commute that kind of took me out of commission for most of the day. And I'd come home tired. I'd go for my jog, and then I would come home and be tired. And, and Chris he worked in IT, but he worked from home. He was like the first generation of work from home remote workers. So neither of us really got out because we didn't have time, or we were tired, or we were isolated. So for a long time, we were kind of the only ones in each other's life. And so it was, so it's like giving that steadfast point, like, you're my anchor, I'm your anchor. Together, this is our life. We fill this sort of empty space in our life that could be us, if we wanted to, putting ourselves out there, having a social life, doing things, getting out there. But we spent a lot of time hanging out on the couch watching reruns of The West Wing.
So this also sounds to me like the plot of like a bad rom-com where you're both like, if neither of us is married by the time we're 35.
Yeah. Yep.
We did not have that agreement, but it was definitely, there were some people, including my family, who were a little perplexed by our friendship. They were like, are you guys together? Are you dating? Are you this? I mean, he was my +1 to my cousin's wedding. Everyone was confused. And I was like, I just need a buffer because this is a lot of people. But it was definitely more, he was kind of like a big brother figure, and he still is. We're close.
This is the interesting thing about lyrics, is that in reading it and in hearing it, you can get one sort of a picture, but hearing you tell this story about what it actually is, it just shows you that there's so many wares, and there may be people out there who hear this and relate it to something entirely other than the truth or what the common perception might be. I want to go to Luke for a second here. We've talked throughout this process about how this record is sort of a journey. It's a spiritual journey. It's also a literal journey of the various geographies that Reeya lived in. And you've talked about creating sort of a sonic environment to match each place, each location, and each sort of new episode and new avenue that the record has taken us through. And we're most of the way through the record now. What was the environment for Sink In for you?
Yeah. Well, once again, we had like a running list of instrumental ideas that we were knocking back and forth. I would come up with a guitar part, and then we'd kind of match each instrumental with a location. And this was kind of like,
And how did
so
you, if I can just stop you there,
yeah,
what were the criteria for like, this sounds like California, this sounds like the Hudson Valley?
That's a good question. Yeah.
yeah. I think the best part about that was we were looking at emotions once again. So
Mhm.
like for the California song Blue and Gray, it was like this sort of sparkly waltz that was a bit menacing, and we're like, well, that'll fit in with San Francisco because it's like this great thing that's actually kind of oppressive. But with Sink In, it was like this kind of I had this kind of punk scathing sort of bass line, and we're like, which one does this fit in with? And I think we just kind of mashed them together. We're like, let's make the story about being, sort of a shut in Poughkeepsie. Go with this sort of like, it's still like a driving beat, but like, um, I think it wasn't as like as oppressive as the lyrics. It still moves and is fun, but I don't know. Do you guys think it worked? We just kind of mashed them together.
I think it worked because, in retrospect, I look back at that time in my life and I can see that maybe it wasn't a particularly healthy way to live.
Yeah.
But being that sort of socially disconnected and kind of having like, this is my one friend, and you look
Mhm.
on Facebook and see friends from college and high school who are moving on and getting cool jobs and getting married and stuff, and I'm just kind of like, well, I'm sitting here on the couch watching reruns, and this is I kind of know this isn't really like where I want my life to be, or maybe people think I should be at this age of 27, 28 years old at this time. But it was just like it was comfortable, it was nice, it was fun,
Yeah.
it was like a nice kind of cozy way to be. And then but there was always that internal like that kind of bridge thing that we've got. What are you doing here, what am I doing here? um Bouncing off the walls. There's always a little bit of like, we know that this isn't probably the healthiest way to exist, but we're
But
it's
who cares?
comfy.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Enjoy
Like
your
we
life. I mean,
like
life is
it.
Yeah.
short,
Yeah.
whatever works.
Yeah.
There's one,
Like
I want to ask another production question here,
Sure.
because I'll direct this to Luke, just because I'm just curious about this. When I see this, there's a line in the song where you say, replay the sweet sound of no line on the
Oh
horizon.
yeah, this one.
When you see, Luke, when you see something like a very specific reference to a very specific album and a specific band, does
Yeah.
that inform like, oh, I should put a little chimey guitar fill right here or something to cue back to that? Do you call that back, or is that just more, evocative of the time and place when this was happening?
Yeah, well, I listened to the song, and there's another track on this album that actually like looks more at U2, which is the band that did
Yeah.
that song, and kind of replicates that sound. U2 was like always one of your main influences, what we kept coming back to. Maybe
yeah,
we'll do like more U2 songs in the future with those delayed
yeah,
guitars.
I'm a shameless U2 stan, and I know that that can also be polarizing, but
Yeah. Well,
uh,
luckily for me, the line "No line on the horizon" I was like, oh, that kind of works for this person who's running with their headphones and they're like kind of
mhm.
closed
Yeah.
off from the world. And if you don't even know what that song is, it still can like kind of
Yeah,
set a
it can
cool mood.
fit.
So
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
worked.
Okay.
And
Cool.
that's still, it's like to this day, when I came back to my second running era, I still listen. I don't know if U2 intended, it's a great running album. They don't really play a lot of the tunes now when they play live. They go back to their back catalog of Joshua Tree, Achtung Baby, War, kind of their classic stuff, and then their newer stuff. And they very
I'm
rarely
still
play
a
a
little
song.
pissed at them for insinuating themselves into my new phone without
This
my
is
permission.
why everybody
Never
hates
forgive.
them. I didn't mind. I was like, hey, cool, you too, for free. But everyone, I get why people were mad. That was a
Yeah.
little presumptuous. But
And now
yeah,
they're in our song.
yeah, exactly. And
First
that's,
you're in our phone.
they they don't play a lot of the I don't, I've seen them live a few times. They don't really, except for the tour they did for that album, they don't play songs. So I don't know if they're embarrassed by this album or they just, it's their
Well,
least
we will
favorite.
never know.
Yeah.
But if Bono, if you're listening, you wrote a really great running album.
Yeah.
He's not listening, but
He
There
might
you
be.
go. Okay. All right. Well, let's leave it there for this one. And thanks for all of you who have been with us on this journey so far. We got a couple more episodes to finish out the album. Stick around, and we'll see you with the next one.
Every step I'm tougher than before.